Today on Talking Solutions, we're going to discuss some issues related to our precious veterans. We're going to start off by introducing the guys from our Veterans Talk Show, which runs on Saturday on AM 720 KDON. We've got Jim Lytner, RJ Doe. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you for having us on.
And Eva Secchari is also with us. You guys have some exciting projects in the works for veterans, and I want to make sure that we spread the word among all of our Beasley Media Group stations.
Well, there's so much that has gone on this past couple of years with our veteran community, going back to last year with Phoenix, where they say as many as 1,000 veterans may have died because of lack of care or records being destroyed. We have 22 suicides a day or 1,000 suicides a month in our veteran community. A lot of that because they are not getting the help. The system is overwhelmed. So our Veteran Care Foundation went together with Life After Active Duty, which is Eva Secchari and her brother Leo, to put together a Veterans Transition Resource Center. We have negotiated this space. It's across from the Aliante in North Las Vegas, 3 exit downs from the new hospital. They'll also be opening the Fisher House out in that same area, and we will open with 24 different services under one roof.
This sounds great. The thing that you mentioned too, Jim, about the suicides, everybody has to be troubled over those numbers. That's just unacceptable. Our veterans, it's not enough to say thank you for your service and expect everybody to just come back and meld into society with no bumps or issues. There are transition difficulties that we should be expecting because our veterans, like you, of course, everybody who has been involved in any kind of active duty service, you've experienced things that have got to stay with you.
Well, with our men and women coming home, particularly our Gulf War vets forward, they've been deployed 2, 3, 4 times in many cases. Then they come home and go on waiting lists, sometimes 4 and 5 and 6 months before they get the help. Plus the family around that veteran. They're not getting the support. The VA will take care of the veteran, but the family really is left out. And we want to step up and help and support that family. The key to the success of the healing of that veteran is that family support. The women or the men, depending on who was deployed, suffer from PTSD. The suicide rate among the children of military families is off the scale, and we have to do something about that.
I consider the military family to serve alongside their military family member. They're the ones who are doing without that loved one. They're fending on their own. Yes, there is a military community around them, places like Nellis and Creech locally, but they still are missing so much during this service period. They serve too. That's my thought.
They do serve in a big way. I know that RJ and I went up to Carson City last March and attended a 1-week Train the Trainer program on suicide intervention. We are both suicide intervention counselors, and we teach the ASSIST course. We did that specifically for that reason, to help these military families. We know what the program is. All of us that do the show are disabled veterans. And now we've recently been joined by Eva, that is not, but her son. And she comes from a military family. Your son was a Iraq veteran, as I understood it.
Afghanistan as well.
Uh-huh.
And then Leo, he just retired from the Army, so he's on multiple deployments as well.
That's what's happened for a lot of these more recent veterans, as you said, from Gulf War on up to present, multiple deployments.
Well, as a Vietnam veteran, and what happened to us when I came home, I said, never again. Never again. And here we are. We're doing it again. We aren't taking care of our veterans. Not right.
I'm really excited about the idea of this Veterans Resource Center that you're talking about. It's going to be in the area, you said, across from the Aliante Hotel up in North Las Vegas.
That's correct.
What kind of time frame are we looking at for that to be on board?
1st of December.
That's pretty quick.
It is quick, but we need it last December. We need it now.
Yesterday would be good.
Right. We need the entire community to support us and help us get that done.
What kind of companies have stepped up to assist you in getting this Veterans Resource Center on board?
A lot of them.
Yeah, for example, in terms of the family aspect, we've got Boys Town in Las Vegas. They want to be able to provide the extra services, and Easter Seals in Nevada, as well as some of these other organizations like Veterans Real Estate. We have multiple different organizations that are specific on the gaps of services that are not being provided effectively in the community for our military. That's just a small list. I could probably go through a whole laundry list, but that's a start.
I want to say I also heard businesses like Greenspun and Cox. Are they part of this whole project?
Well, Cox Cable stepped up when we went through the space and will put fiber in and help us put together a studio there. The Greenspun Group owns the property, or they're part of the group that owns the property. They have really stepped up, trying to help us and assist us to get that project done. We have submitted our proposal to United Healthcare. We have also submitted it to Nevada Military Alliance that raised all of the funds for the Fisher House. So we have a number of people looking at what we want to do, and we will get it done.
I can't wait. We're talking about some exciting things on tap very soon for our veterans. And in studio with us today on Talking Solutions, Jim Lytner, RJ Doe, both from Veterans Talk, and Eva Secchari is also with us. We should also mention you've got a show on Saturdays ongoing on AM 720 KDON. So some of our listeners today, if they're KDON listeners, they might actually be acquainted with what you guys do. Otherwise, you're new to everyone else.
We've been doing Veterans Talk, the Forgotten Promise broadcast, combination webcast for 5 years. We're 5 years old in August.
There's a lot of things that I'm sure you're able to share with our veterans and their families that make a real difference, telling them about resources that are out there that they might otherwise be unaware of.
Well, in so many cases, when these veterans come home, they aren't the same. They've changed forever. And that goes into many different aspects of trying to transition. You know, the family issues, family violence, all kinds of problems that we want to reach out and help and support. Most people will sit back and just criticize. We want to help be part of the solution, not the problem.
The healing.
That's right.
Getting everybody back. And like you said, they're never going to be the same, but there's a lot of healing processes that can help make it so much better. You were saying that this new Veterans Resource Center that's apparently going to be up and online by December, just weeks from now, they're going to have a lot of services. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going to be offered in-house?
Well, again, 24 different services under one roof starting out. With RJ and I, of course, it will be the suicide prevention program working with Richard Egan that works for the state of Nevada with a suicide prevention program in southern Nevada. We will be doing the broadcast studio. They're building a full studio along with Cox to broadcast and do webcasts from there. And then Eva takes over from there with the rest of her services.
We'll have, even like in terms of the healing aspect, we'll have some alternative post-traumatic stress modalities. We'll have different workshops for the children and for the women, especially for our women veterans, and what we call the women empowerment programs. And then also there's an educational and training component that will be ongoing in terms of financial literacy, as well as educating them on their VA benefits. And that'll be on a weekly basis. So we'll have a lot of rotating services that are at their disposal. And, you know, there's a central hub in a physical location now that they can go to.
One-stop service in a lot of cases. That sounds great.
I prefer to say one-start service.
I like your approach. We have been so fortunate on Talking Solutions over the past months. We've had a lot of different groups who have wonderful services for our veterans, like Sydney Knott, the founder of Horses for Heroes. I love what they do. That helps also in cases like you were saying, PTSD, and helping the returning veteran who's trying to acclimate back to society. They do have programs where they're able to get veterans caring for these horses and how they learn to trust each other and the mutual respect. It's just a beautiful thing. We've got a lot of different programs. Just last week on the show, in fact, we had Kathy Toppin from Goodwill. Goodwill, with their job services, training programs, placement, they are wonderful, and they so value veterans. They are VIPs. There's just no way that we can have too much for our veterans because the needs are still so great.
We work with all of them. We are not here to recreate the wheel. We are here to complement, enhance those services that are out there. In so many cases, the reason our veterans are slipping between the cracks, because each one of these services have guidelines, and for some reason there's always something that seems to be missing, and they can't help. We hope to fill in those cracks and work with these other groups in order to get the services that our veterans and their families need.
Well, and Jim, you can also provide the information. You can shine a light so that even if program number 1 isn't able to help, program number 2, 3, 4 you can also guide them to a service that may be able to help when the initial one was unable.
You're exactly right.
And part of what we do on the show, we're not a political show in any way. We are a 501c3 public charity, but we will hold their feet to the fire if they don't fulfill their promises, whether it's a politician or the heads of one of these organizations. And that happens more than you know.
No matter where the services or the promise of assistance comes from, I love that you're going to stay on them and make them do what they said they'd do.
That's our job. Hold their feet to the fire. That's everybody's job. As a community, we need to pull together and make that happen.
When something happens, and the thing that pops into my mind is not directly related to the veterans issue that we're discussing today, but when something happens in our community, Southern Nevada is very good at banding together and wrapping our arms around the hurt, like when we lost our officers last summer with Metro. It was a bonding for all of us. As a community, we were hurting. I think that we should be feeling the same way about our veterans all the time.
Well, less than 0.5% serve in the military today. So it is kind of out of sight, out of mind. But people are generous. There are special people out there. We run into them all of the time that really will help. They just need to know what to do. That's why we do the show.
You have a website?
We do. VeteransTalk.com or VeteransCareFoundation.us.
I bet you're also a link off of KDON.
I'll bet we are too.
KDON.com website. That's got to be the case. One of the things that you mentioned, Jim, was that when something is out there where people can step up and assist, we're a very willing community. Bring it to light, show us, go, hey, here's something you can help with. I notice also you brought some information in the studio. I've heard of this before. In the spring, we did One Hero at a Time out at, was it Casablanca? In Mesquite.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But this is One Hero at a Time is a very special program. I love it because the whole day's efforts are geared toward assisting one military veteran and their family. You've got another one of these coming up. Where is this one?
That will be October 17th at Joker's Wild in Henderson, Nevada. That's located on Boulder Highway and Warm Springs Road. Again, Boyd Gaming, this is the third year now that Boyd Gaming has come behind us to give us the venue for it. Great group of people. 10 bands starting from noon to 10 o'clock that evening. We ask for a $20 donation when you come through the door. You hand it directly to that veteran and their family. Great group of people, all volunteers.
And they are serious. One Hero at a Time is 100% of the money goes directly to that veteran and their family.
Exactly right.
You guys got no overhead. Joker's Wild's going to donate the venue. I'm sure all of those 20 bands you're talking about who are going to be playing on Saturday, October 17th, all donating their services. And I'm betting the last One Hero at a Time that was in a different place in the spring also had some other little bells and whistles that went along with. I know that they had some raffles or things of that nature that raise even more money for that veteran and their family.
Beer carts and the different things outside during that where the waitresses and the waiters got their tips, they even donated that to the veteran. They would not accept the tips. Unbelievable.
I love that.
We do have some overhead for the program, though, One Hero at a Time, in terms of the staging that's put up, the lighting, the sound equipment, the big tents we put up for the people to sit under because it's an open parking lot. And most of that has come volunteered to us to just pick up and take. But there is also the case of a insurance policy, event insurance policy you need to get. So there are some costs associated with it. And when somebody doesn't step up, like this year in particular, somebody's not stepping up with some of the band equipment that we need, so we're either going to have to pay for that or find somebody else to step up with it. So there are some overhead costs, and we actually run separate fundraisers to fund that. We had one last weekend, Susie and Jim's Tri-Tip Dinner, and we raised some money for that and for the Veterans Care Foundation. Also a fish fry sponsored by VFW Post 3848. The proceeds from that will go toward covering the overhead cost of One Hero at a Time.
I love that idea, RJ. That's great because we do know there are some hard costs as part of any event. There are a few things that don't come 100% free, but you guys have another fundraiser to cover that. That's a great idea.
In the past years, the volunteers took the money out of their pocket to cover those hard costs.
You feel it in your heart, and that's what you do.
That's right.
The person that we're going to honor with One Hero at a Time coming up on Saturday the 17th at the Joker's Wild Casino. They're in Henderson at Warm Springs and Boulder Highway. Specialist Blaine Sullivan. Is there anything you can tell us about Blaine? Because they all have such such great stories.
There's a lot to say about Blaine. He has been honored on several different occasions here. He was just previously to this event honored with a track wheelchair because he's lost a leg. I know that John L. Smith wrote an article on him. They had donated a house to him. And once again, I want people to understand the money is important, but more importantly, it's the moral support of these veterans that is the most important, and the awareness that this raises as to the plight of our veterans.
If all of our returning veterans felt the support that is offered by an event like One Hero at a Time for Specialist Blaine Sullivan, I would think that suicide rate that we think is so horrendous would not be an issue.
That's right.
If all of our returning vets felt the love and the support and got the services that they so deserve, it wouldn't be a problem.
That's right. This isn't just about Blaine, it's about all of them.
We are a part of a community where I feel in my heart that there's a lot of love for our military. We're so blessed to have the military members and their families who come through places like Nellis and Creech. And the military component of Las Vegas and Southern Nevada is important to all of us. So it's something that we need to step up and support.
290,000 veterans in the state of Nevada.
That's a pretty good number.
That doesn't count Nellis and the other active military bases, just the veterans, 290,000.
It's a good place to be, in my mind, but we need to provide the services to our veterans that are so deserving. In studio with us today on Talking Solutions, the guys from our Veterans Talk Show, which runs on Saturday on AM 720, KDON. We've got Jim Lytner, RJ Doe. Eva Secchari is also with us. What is the group?
Life After Active Duty.
One of the big events that's coming up, not far away, on the 17th. Also, the first annual Chipping In for Vets golf tournament. Tell me about this.
I only read through it one time, so it's
Would you
basically
like it?
to support the veterans' courts, because a lot of the expenses of the veterans' court, they have no money to do that. For example, if a veteran is given a task that he gets periodic drug testing, for example, nobody pays for that. That has to come from the court. Well, the court's not funded to do that. So all these peripheral expenses that go along with it, the court has to come up with money. They have a nonprofit themselves to raise money, plus they're holding this golf tournament to help also raise money.
It's a lovely location. It's coming up on Monday, October 26th at Chimera Golf Club at Tuscany in Henderson. Yeah, the Veterans Treatment Court. Some of this stuff, I think it's funny, RJ, that you say the court is funded, but all the stuff that they tell people that they need to do in the way of veterans being assigned certain tasks or duties, that's not funded.
One of the examples that Judge Stevens brought up is one of the veterans had no way to get around and asked the court for a bicycle. They bought him a bicycle, so he's got transportation to get to and from a job so that he can help get through that program and go back into society with his record being clean.
The success rate of that drug court is in excess of 80%. That's unheard of.
That's amazing.
Judge Stevens, Judge Saragosa here in Las Vegas Specialty Court, Judge Lee in North Las Vegas. We've had these different judges on the show, and they put a tough program on. There's some of these veterans saying, I'd rather go to jail. They are not, we have had people come and tell us, well, why should some veteran get a special break? Believe me, it's not a special break. They put them through a program that is tough, but once they do it, their record's wiped clean and they have another chance at life.
The court that I've heard a little bit about, Jim, is that because our veterans deal with a very different set of circumstances, we need to really give them a different kind of judgment. Does that make sense?
It does.
Because, yes, we need to make sure that everybody stands up to their responsibilities, but to put the same rules and conditions as everyday civilians on a veteran, it's not the same thing.
Well, I've told my story on the air some time ago when I came home and what happened, and I could have very easily been one of those veterans. Fortunately, I had the support group around me and family to help. Many of them do not.
Jim, when you were saying that you are a Vietnam veteran,
right,
and the shameful way that our Vietnam vets were treated when they returned to the States, the fact that you made it through that at all is a wonderful thing. But I've got to believe that at least as a society, we're figuring out that we can't be treating our veterans that way and that there is more pride. And as I said earlier, it's not enough to just thank you for your service. We got to do what we promised to do. And when you talk about the small percentage of people in the U.S. who actually are part of our military, who end up, because we do have such a small segment, they end up being redeployed over and over again. Afghanistan, maybe in Iraq, somewhere in the Middle East. I don't know what the solution is. I'm sure you're a lot closer to it than I am, but it just doesn't seem right for this small percentage of people to go over and over and over again for multiple deployments and then come back to the States and not get the services that they were promised.
I believe the worst part of it is in any war, go to win. You have to have the will to win. We didn't in Vietnam, we didn't in Korea, and we haven't since. We can't send our men and women to war and not win it. These political wars have to stop. And once again, we are not a political show, but from a veteran's viewpoint, when we go win. And we can. We just don't.
I hadn't really thought about that, but you're entirely right. We don't put the full commitment behind it. It's a different situation these days than it was in World War I, World War II, where it was there's a monster out there and we've got to protect our country and our people. It's just not the same.
Rules of engagement are so different. I recall when I went into Vietnam and indoctrinated into the country, the one speech they gave us was, "This is a police action. Don't shoot unless you're shot at." I thought for about 3 seconds. I said, I don't think that works well for me.
Whoa, okay.
But the rules of engagement today with our young men and women going to fight, well, you can do this, you can't do that. Wait a second. When you're fighting in a war, it's kill or be killed in many cases. And we just don't go with the will to win. It's a political war in almost all of the cases, going back to Korea forward.
We put some of our best kids, these young people, men and women who are going off to serve on our behalf. They're so young and they're so precious. And they end up encountering things like IEDs and they have lifetime injuries and they come back home and it's our job to take care of them. It sounds like the Veterans Resource Center that you've got coming online in December, it's going to be a nice addition to help carry through with some of those promises.
It's a start.
24 different services. It's going to be across from the Aliante Casino there in North Las Vegas. And you're saying first part of December?
First part of December.
Pretty exciting. Where would a veteran or a veteran's family or a person who's just interested in helping, where would they find out more about this resource center?
Bring up our website, veteranstalk.com, or 800 number, 800-414-1056.
Or www.lifeafteractiveduty.org, and contact number is 702-497-8744.
And that's the group that Eva is involved with. And so it's out there. You can help. You could help. You could be a part of it if you need the services, no matter what kind of angle you're coming at it from. Jim, I'd also love it if you and JD would tell us about your show on the weekend, because all these people who haven't heard of it before, let's let them know where to find you on a weekly basis.
Well, we air from noon to 2 o'clock every Saturday. RJ and I just had our 5th year anniversary on the webcast and the broadcast. We started out with KDON many years ago, went to another station, and then came back. And I believe we're here to stay this time.
We're glad to have you here, part of our Beasley family. It's an important issue, and to have you guys kind of as our in-house experts, that's how I'm going to think of it.
I do want to specify one thing, and that is Pacific time, because as you know, KDON is worldwide. It's announced on every show. Mm-hmm. We have people in Afghanistan that listen to our show. We are also worldwide, and it's nice for them to figure out when to plug into their computer and listen.
And for anyone who's deployed, thank you for your service. Come home safe. People are listening. That's good to know. Okay, let's see. What else have we not talked about that you would like to cover?
Well, the week prior to our One Hero at a Time, on October 17th, that's One Hero at a Time at Joker's Wild. Mm-hmm. The week prior to that, on the 10th, we're doing a Veterans Rockathon at Club Fortune in Henderson.
Really?
Now, Club Fortune, this is the second annual. Club Fortune does that to honor the veterans. Many veterans work there. The owner of Club Fortune is a veteran, and they do it to honor the veterans. It's free. Now, the food, you have to pay for your food and so forth, but we will be broadcasting live from their showroom from noon to 2 o'clock, and then participating in the festivities. It's a great program. They have wonderful entertainment. Come out and join us on October 10th. Veterans Rockathon at Club Fortune, and then, of course, the following week, October 17th, live broadcast as well from noon to 2 o'clock at Joker's Wild, and the festivities go till 10 o'clock plus.
You guys get out and do all kinds of broadcasts. I know that. You're always doing Veterans Talk live from someplace. So you're going to be out and about and meeting people and part of the festivities.
Next 2 months, almost every weekend, we're out.
Well, you know, next month we're coming up on Veterans Day, so we got to do that up right.
Yes, that's right.
Of course.
That's right.
I think that's great.
One of the things that we encourage on our show is to donate to public charities, 501c3s. And we want them to donate to a local charity, whether it's our charity or somebody else's charity. We want you to donate to one that is in your area because you can go meet the people. You can see what they do. You can see how they spend their money, and you can participate in their activities. So it's important, if you're going to support a charity that's in your neighborhood.
Works for me. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having us on.
As long as we're on the subject of veterans, there's an event coming up next week you might be interested in.
Attention veterans, your honorable service has earned you the right to home ownership. The Free Veterans Housing Summit can help make your dream of home a reality. Make plans to attend Saturday, October 10th, 10 to 4 at the Innovation Building, 6795 South Edmond, just off of the Southern Beltway in Jones. Get your free home loan pre-approval. Learn about down payment assistance, the VA home loan. There's free financial counseling, continental breakfast and raffle prize, along with a Veterans Service Expo. Register for the Veterans Housing Summit and find out what paperwork you should bring along by clicking the Community Events tab at kdwn.com or call 702-900-7043. That's 702-900-7043.
Coming up next week on Talking Solutions, we will hear from Aaron Breen with the Vulnerable Road Users Project, discussing a huge issue for all of us, whether you're a driver, a pedestrian, a bicyclist here in Southern Nevada, pedestrian safety.
I tell people all the time, it's like an onion, you know? You think you have the solution, but then we can peel that layer back and show you what the problem is. Someone this morning on the way up here just talking to me about people trying to make a transfer on a bus. And you don't realize as you drive down the street in your air-conditioned couch, the plight that people who are using public transportation, if they miss a bus, you know, it'd be the difference between having a job or not having a job. Or sitting out where it's 180 degrees on the pavement for 45 minutes in some locales waiting for the next bus. And the RTC does a magnificent job, you know, as our metropolitan planning organization. They really are top notch. And there is so much that is involved in that as well. Because of air pollution issues, our bus stops are what we call far side, so that they're not at a signal unloading a bus and then catching a red light on top of it and idling there even longer. So they have them come through the intersection and park on the far side. What that does for an awful lot of people, because you can't get close enough to the corner, it's farther ahead. And then the person getting off of the bus, they can see their connecting bus. And they do what I affectionately and lovingly refer to as the 7-lane dash to death. And very often we have a tragedy on our hands.
The thing that you were describing with the RTC, as you said, for pollution reasons and a lot of reasons, and I would imagine it's also for traffic flow, too, to get that bus through the intersection and on the other side.
Everything's for the almighty car. Yes.
Oh, man. It is a car world, especially here. But you end up making the dash across the street, and you're right. And people who get off that bus and need to make a connection, they get off, they see the other bus, they don't have a lot of time, it's their chance, and boom, they run.
And, you know, they know that they're risking their lives. And yet the general population calls them names and thinks that they're less than smart. You've never been in their shoes. I love to walk into a room of people to talk about pedestrian safety, and the first thing that I always ask is, show of hands, who's ever been a walking commuter? Doesn't matter who the audience is in Las Vegas. 2 or 3 people raise their hands.
Not a lot of hands.
Not a lot of hands.
I didn't raise mine just now because I don't think I've been in that category.
Yeah, talk about walk a mile in their shoes. So we have this built environment here, and Durango's the perfect example. It's wide, it's flat, and it's unbelievably fast. As a driver, you're really comfortable going more than the posted 45 miles an hour. Yeah,
it's just a suggestion.
Yeah, it is. And unfortunately, we have a lot of those, just a suggestion. So you have an issue with pedestrians and few places to cross the street that are safe. You know, on a 45-mile-an-hour street, if there's not something physically stopping traffic, it's not a safe cross. But here you have big stretches of blocks with nowhere to cross legally. You ask yourself, how far are you willing to walk? And that's another one of my favorite questions. Because the reality is, go to any grocery store, mall, whatever, and you see people trolling up and down the aisles for a parking spot. Because as a society, we're not willing to walk. But we're really willing to say that they should walk a half a mile out of their way. And then there's the whole issue of, do cars stop for them when they're doing the right thing and they're being predictable? Again, on a street like Durango, you have other streets that intersect Durango, which makes it a legal cross for the pedestrian. There doesn't have to be a painted crosswalk. It's not a smart cross. I would never suggest it, but it's legal. And I think that there's a lot of drivers who very conveniently say they don't belong there, so they don't stop. And in fact, it's the driver that's breaking the law. So we've created this hostile environment for people on foot. We've created a real struggle between the walker and the bicyclist and the motorist. motorists not watching and not caring when they see them because they can. It's kind of like a bully thing. And I would be remiss if I did not also say that sometimes people on foot take risks that they shouldn't and they do stupid things. We all do because we're all human beings. When it comes right down to the bottom line, aren't we all human? And as humans, we do dumb things. But we live in a city that's built for vehicles. And if you're not somebody behind the wheel of a car, you're really kind of screwed.
The entire show next week, all about pedestrian safety. Hope you'll join us. Talking Solutions is a production of the Community Relations Department here at Beasley Media Group Las Vegas. Get more information on today's topic on our Talking Solutions page on Facebook, where you will also find links and a podcast of today's show. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.